Blessings. Welcome to today's Law Enforcement Daily Devotional. I'm back at the house today. So today's read was out of Proverbs 30 and 31, and then we jump over into Psalm 127. And I'm so excited about Psalm 127, just the first verse of that. But before we get to that, chapter 30, we're at the very end of Psalms, and so it's almost like they kind of tack these last two chapters on because they are important, but they're kind of standalone, different from some of the wisdom that Solomon wrote, just kind of in format. And 30 was written by a guy named Agur, A-G-U-R, but anyway, he has an interesting way of expressing his knowledge and wisdom, and you can tell from reading that he likes to do things in lists. And one of the lists that he did, there's characteristics of a wicked person that we've seen from other parts of wisdom, other men of wisdom, and it's the character of a wicked person who curses his father and does not bless his mother. We've seen that expressed through Solomon and David in some of the things they wrote about wisdom. So if you've got three people who confirm the same characteristic, it's something that we should take note of, because especially in law enforcement we deal with this kind of thing. So this is something we really need to look at, is how a suspected person treats their parents or has treated them in the past. Through interviews we can find some of this information out. So good takeaway. Chapter 30 verses 21 through 23, looking closely at this list of things that make the earth tremble. If there are four things that are so terrible that they make the earth tremble with fear, we should look at them and take note of them. And the very first of this list of four and the last of this list of four are people that usurp authority and turn authority upside down on its head. What's right is wrong, what's called good is called bad, and just that whole thought of things being reversed and not right. Things are very wrong here. And I think that's a really good takeaway for us to think about when we see authority or when we see things that are upside down, that are not right. That is contrary to God's rule and his law, and it's basically rebellion. Then we go to chapter 31. Again, this was written by someone different and put on the end, but it's written by King Lemuel, and it's not really from him. It was something that his mom told him. She gave him some good wisdom, and apparently he expressed it enough that it's considered from King Lemuel. But verse 8, it says, "Open your mouth for the mute," the people who can't talk, who can't speak for themselves. This would be maybe the elderly or children or people who just don't have a voice. Stand up and be that voice of justice for them. For the rights, stand up for all the rights of the unfortunate. This is our call in law enforcement. This is what we're supposed to do. So if you find yourself in a position where you're just blowing that part of your job off, go back, revisit this, and realize how important this is to what we do. Verse 9, open your mouth. This goes right along with it. Judge righteously and defend the rights of the afflicted and the needy. Sometimes they don't have anybody that defends their rights, or they're just overlooked, or they're just like nobody cares about them because they're not tax-paying contributors to society, as some people would look at them. Maybe they're homeless, but our job is to protect them and speak up for them. So good reminders. And finally, we get down to Psalm 127, verse 1, which is incredible. It applies to law enforcement in so many different ways, but we know the throne of God is founded on righteousness and justice. If he founds his very throne on these two principles, then as a law enforcement group, collective, we should realize that our foundation should be also firmly planted in righteousness and justice. That is foundational. It's foundational to God. It should be absolutely foundational to us. It should be the concrete that we build our police station on, or our agency on. The foundation has to be justice and righteousness, and we've got to acknowledge that that comes from God. Here's what it says: unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it. If we want to build a productive, a law enforcement agency that has results, that's part of the community, that is doing their job well, we have to acknowledge that justice comes from God, and we have to follow his lead in building the foundation of our system on him. Well, we have to acknowledge that, because the very next part, or the bottom part of verse 1 says, unless the Lord guards the city, the watchman keeps wake in vain. What does that mean? It means we've got to invite God to be a part of this, because God's a gentleman. He's not going to just bum rush his way in and take over. We have to give our authority up to him, and we have to allow him to be the authority. He's the creator of justice. He knows justice inside and out. It's got to be through him that we carry out justice. Okay, basically it says the watchman keeps wake in vain. Well, who better to keep watch than God? Because God knows the enemy. He knows all the enemy's tactics. He knows all the enemy's maneuvers. And who better to know the enemy as they're coming than God? And God is the real watchman, not us. So we've got to allow him to be our authority. I mean, it's really basic, but it's such a good law enforcement principle. Anyway, so tomorrow we're in Song of Songs. Just a book. We're going to read the whole book tomorrow, and we're going to come back here and discuss the law enforcement takeaways we see in it. Hope you read ahead of time and come prepared. You guys stay safe. I'll see you tomorrow.